Our final question, again, we'll follow up on the town hall matter. Employee feedback to the select board appears to point to an atmosphere of workplace bullying, micromanagement, intimidation, threats of retaliation at the town hall. What are your thoughts on the issue? And do you think the select board is accountable for resolving this in some way, or is responsible for any of this conduct? I know that's a long-winded question, but we had about 20 questions on the topic. So I think we're starting with you on this one, Karen. Is that correct? I think I've lost track here.
I'm going to need you to repeat
Do
the
you want the
question.
question
It was a
again?
bit long.
I hope I can repeat it to myself. The employee feedback to the select board appears to point to an atmosphere of workplace bullying and micromanagement, intimidation, and retaliation by the select board at town hall. What are your thoughts on the issue? And do you feel the select board is responsible to resolve this situation, to make this situation better?
Okay. So I think I've actually addressed that question to a certain extent with my last answer. I'll add that I think a written code of conduct, again, I'm going to emphasize how important I think that is for the select board. And that will help, hopefully, iron out some of the wrinkles in terms of expectations of how the town administrator and the select board interact and how the select board interacts with employees. And it will be consistent. It'll create consistency for everyone. I think part of the problem, as I see it, for the town employees right now, is that they don't know what to expect. It's very personality driven, right? So how one select board member feels their interaction should be is different from another select board member, is different from one town administrator to another. And without some written policies in place, I think we're going to continue to have trouble. So I would add that I think the written code of conduct is important. Again, and I'll say it again, we need a secure way for town employees to raise their concerns without fear of being named or retaliated against. And yes, I do think that's something the select board can and should take care of.
Okay, thank you. Matthew?
I do believe we have a workplace bullying problem, and I have addressed this in a professional capacity in my day job. Workplace bullying can take the form of threats, intimidation, humiliation, sabotage, retaliation, and the financial cost is enormous. There's a loss of productivity and efficiency, there's absenteeism, there's increased turnover, and in some cases there's legal ramifications. There's also reputational damage to the organization, which can make it more difficult to hire and retain high-quality professional employees. Now, maybe the behavior is not intended to cause harm, but honestly, the intent isn't relevant. What's important is that there's a serious operational fallout. And when we're talking about town hall, we're talking about your tax dollars. You know, we need to address this head on. The city of Portland, Oregon recently settled a workplace bullying suit for $250,000. And I guarantee you that there's not one person in this town who wants to spend their money on that. There is a lot we can do to fix this, but it's a two-way street. I hope that we can get the entire board to commit to fixing it and do whatever it takes to make town hall fully functional. I do think a code of conduct will provide a touchstone for board members and accountability for staff and residents. And if I'm reelected, I will keep pushing for policies like that to put an end to this kind of stuff, which is frankly a waste of time and money, and get back to work on what we need to do, which is governing the town.
Okay, thank you. Cindy?
Great, thank you, Mr. Moderator. So what you laid out in that question, those are very serious allegations that all members of the select board take very seriously. As the board knows, as the public knows, the board voted unanimously recently not to extend the contract of our last town administrator, and that was a very difficult decision for the board to make. As Mrs. Morrison pointed out, we did lose 10 employees last year. We lost some top-level talent, and it really is hurtful to our organization as a whole It costs the taxpayers money, there is no doubt about it. And it's really unfortunate because we had a lot of people that actually really loved working here, but feel that they could no longer do so, which is really regrettable. And I think the board needs to take some responsibility for that as a group. And so I think the code of conduct has been in place since 2008. The select board has a code of conduct. The problem is that when new board members come on board, they're not made aware of the existence of that code of conduct. What we should do as part of the select board policies and regulations is make sure that new board members actually are aware of that document, what it contains and what those expectations are as a group. The other thing that we talked about in last year that never came to fruition was establishing new board member training. It's not easy to step into the role of an elected official. You know, we're used to working in the private sector, but now you become an elected official and you have a town administrator you're working with, you have 5 other personalities that you're working with, and you have a group of town hall employees that you're working with. It's not an easy adjustment to make, and we need to provide our elected officials, not just the select board, but other elected officials with the tools to make that transition and make that, to adapt to that. With regard, I know that Mr. Wilson, who's in the room, and Mr. Nordhaus recently had a meeting with town hall staff that they expressed those concerns. We got bits and pieces of what those concerns were, but I think having a more collective, collaborative discussion as a board about how to address those specific concerns and resolve those issues going forward is warranted. Thank you.